Hello and welcome back to the Folklore Hiking Stick Workshop. I've got something I want to show you and discuss, and it follows on the back of another video I did not that long ago which covers ferrules and indeed why I use copper ferrules. But I've been asked to put an Alpine ferrule on a actual staff. Now, there's nothing unusual about that. I've been asked on quite a few occasions to do it. So why don't I actually do it more often myself? There is a reason for that, and I'll come on to that. It's more pertinent to me and people that use hiking sticks within the UK due to our laws. But yeah, this is what is termed or deemed as an Alpine spike or ferrule. You can see it's got a bucket where you seat and shape the actual end piece of your hiking stick to go, and it's got a very pronounced metal turned point on it. And yes, it is extremely sharp and pointy. This is predominantly for people going up into a more challenging environment where snow, ice and things like that could be encountered. By the very name of it, Alpine Spike, as we know it, it's more for that type of hiking. A copper ferrule, how does it match? Well, if you get it on an edge, it's got an edge and it will hold an edge, but ultimately this does have a point, and it is the best solution for snow and icy conditions. You can get metal ferrules like this, but as you can see, with that rounded dome, it offers nowhere near the grip that this does, or indeed what this does. If you get it on squared on edge, that really bites in. But we're going to talk about this, and I'll show you what I'm going to fit it to. I actually have a staff here, custom ordered. As you can see, they've wanted a similar kind of battle axe styled handle on the top, copper at the bottom. I've got to shape this to basically go on that to give the actual spike, if that makes any sense to you. But that's not what we're talking about. We're going to talk about just the ferrule itself. I'll put this safe. I have fitted these, and I always explain the difficulty that you might encounter with one of these if you're travelling. Quite simply, trying to get in and out of the country with a sharp pointed object like this on your hiking stick could cause you a problem, particularly here in the UK. How do I know? It's because I've run into that very issue myself, and I'll discuss it with you. Now, people still keep challenging me, saying rubber ferrules they're the ultimate. They cover all bases. Well, I strongly do recommend a rubber ferrule if you're on hard standing road, indoor surfaces or man-made surfaces where you do not need the ability to feel the ground and have a direct solid connection to it, which you only get through having a solid connection right the way through the wood down to a metal tip of whatever description going to the ground. There's no give. You can feel every vibration, your movement, you can feel every little slip, every little grip. It goes into a crevice and slams home. You've got that connection right the way from your hand down to the ground. A rubber ferrule takes away a little bit of that. And a very quick demonstration for you guys who are still saying a rubber ferrule is perfectly good when you're in challenging hiking conditions. I'll just let you have a look. Now, this is my wife's stick. And she's got a rubber tip on the end, quite simply because she doesn't do no hiking. But I'll hold it there and I'll move it. And you can see it bending there, and I'm only using one hand. Now, that is shock absorption and movement takes away the direct feel to the ground. Right, coming into the workshop, this one's, I've got to clean it up, but as you can see, it's got pheasants on it. Hold the line written down the side with initials. And a pheasant and a shooter there. You've probably guessed. That's for somebody who enjoys pheasant shooting and beating. But in any case, let's get back to the topic in hand. So we can discount this one for our conversation. This one here is okay in certain circumstances, but due to that rounded, you have no edge that you can bite into. So for me, it leaves these two, because you can actually put it on an edge there and it will bite in. Obviously, that is got the ultimate bite in difficult, snowy, icy conditions. So yeah, I get asked to put these on from time to time, and I do if a customer really does assert that's what they want, and that's what I'm going to put on this staff. But I told you that I ran into some issues, and that was when I was going over into Europe. Now, I took one of my hiking sticks because I was going to go hiking up and around the mountains. It wasn't snowy and it wasn't icy, so one of my copper tips was just the ticket. It was going to be like gravelly, a little bit rocky, dirt track roads and trails that I was going to be going on. So one of my copper tips, that is the perfect conditions for it. And the hiking stick in question I'll get in a moment. But anyway, we queued up to get onto the ferry to go across to Europe, down to Spain, and we needed to have access to the lift. Now, we ended up being put at the back of the queue while everybody else was loaded on the ferry. Anyway, when we were called forward, we got channeled off into a separate aisle where they wanted to go through my car basically to check it for I'm guessing, you know, things that you shouldn't have, contraband, anything that shouldn't be going on the ferry or going into the EU, as it is now. So, because we'd already left the EU by this point. So anyway, they went through my car, they found some of my wife's medication for her double hip operations. Luckily, that caused a little bit of a stir because it was in a Tesco's carrier bag, but luckily we had proof that that was for her, all the medication, and on top of that, some of the boxes did contain her name and address and everything like that. So we were able to get over that hurdle, which is something I won't make that mistake again. Just having it, you know, prescription medications in Tesco's bags. I'll try to do it a little bit more properly. They then came and discovered I had jerry cans in the car. Well, they were empty, but that caused a little bit of a stir because they wanted to know that there was no vapors and things like that in it. So I had to unscrew them and say that there's no vapors and everything like that. And in the process of doing that, you get asked a multitude of other questions. You know, you're not taking no sharp gardening tools and implements and things like that. Lo and behold, he found my hiking stick. Now, my hiking stick was duly pulled out and inspected, and I was asked what it was for, what it's made of, 101 questions, and it's a blatant hiking stick. But what caused the issue was my copper tip on the end. Not one of these, I'll get the hiking stick in question. Right then guys, this is one of my early hiking sticks for myself. Got some designs on it. It's yellowed because it's been sun bleached. It's been outdoors, you know, in 40-degree heat in the Portuguese mountains. Basically, this big heavy copper tip on the bottom. It's got dust on it because I haven't used it for a while. With that very sharp lip. And the gentleman was iffing and amming about the validation of me, you know, having this item with a heavy metal end and a sharp ridge around that. And he took some convincing that this was a bona fide hiking item for myself to go up into the mountains. Yes, it might seem far-fetched, but by this point, you know, the ferry was pretty much loaded with everybody. I think there was only about 2 people. We wanted to get to our cabin, and the last thing I wanted to be challenged over was a hiking stick with a copper tip. But there it was, after some debating and explaining I'm a hiker and this is a hiking stick and it poses no threat to the general public. I cannot harm anybody. You know, I'm not going to cause a security threat by having this with me. But in any case, you know, with gentle diplomacy, I did convince the border security that was the case, and it was allowed to go back in my car, and I loaded the ferry and I did hike in Portugal with it. But had it have been this with a sharp point, I'm pretty convinced that would have been confiscated or I wouldn't have been allowed to board. That could be open to debate, but I know full well you would not be getting on an aeroplane with a point. I certainly wouldn't be chancing my luck trying to get over to the continent with something like this in the back of my car, quite simply because it's a sharp pointed object and it poses a potential security threat in the eyes of somebody who comes across it while they're doing their security checks. Would I like to test that theory? No. I'm sure there's people that have probably got these in and out the country and had no issues. But for me, I don't want my holidays ruined. So this is as far as I go, and it's all I've needed. And as you can see, this tip is held up extremely well on the gravelly, stony, hot, you know, dirt trails out in Portugal. It's still good, and I've got a good lip there which will bite into the ground to give me security. Yeah, so I'd be very wary about fitting one of these to a hiking stick if you plan on doing any traveling or going anywhere where you could be challenged over security issues while having it. But yeah, that's one of the reasons I choose not to fit them. I do like them, and in due course I'll probably make myself one for when I go out up on the moors when it is icy and snowy. But I haven't had to do so at the moment, but it's on my bucket list for myself to do. But as you can see, I'm wrapped up with customers' hiking sticks anyway. So yeah, just a little quick story about how I got, you know, run into problems with a hiking stick. And I'm sure if I'd had one of these tips, it could have been a whole lot worse, i.e. detained or stopped boarding or having it confiscated. So yeah, always think twice about why you may need this and where you're going with it. So to wrap this video up, in conclusion regarding Alpine points, I do fit them occasionally. The only thing I would also like to add is if they're used inappropriately on hard surfaces, they're obviously going to damage them, like flooring, good, you know, tiles, wood flooring, carpets. If you're taking this anywhere near anything domestic, it stands to a good reason that's going to ruin it. If you're using that on the road, it's going to leave marks on the road. tarmac and things like that. But not only that, if you're using it on a hard surface continually, that obviously stands to reason it's not going to retain its point. It's going to dull very quickly, and then you'll just end up with a dome. So if you're going to use something like this, it has to be selected for the right task, the right place that you want to use it, and indeed the right environment that you're going to need it. Most of us possibly don't need this item here. But in any case, yeah, like I said, I do offer it. And yeah, the Alpine Point. I've now got to go and fit this to a hiking stick or a staff. So I'm going to crack on with that. Just thought I'd let you have a little look at that and have a little discussion about it. So take care, stay safe, and I hope to catch you guys on the trail.